this is the Global Digest think tank
Uh-huh.
group. You are our guest for today, and you can let us know what is your specialty to our audience. Please.
I'm basically from the field of law and originated in the area of jurisprudence, philosophy of law. So from the theory to practice, broader range, rather than just law, economics, finance, I've been dealing with these days. So, including the sociological, the philosophy, and political, the philosophy, much more of a dimensional, the phenomenal, the issue to talk about the politics.
I talk a big government and a big supporter and Abe assassination case. I'm not sure you may be not Abe supporter or something like that. And
Yeah,
last,
some of his part,
I see.
I'm a supporter. Some of
Okay,
his part, I'm not a supporter. But he's a kind of a political, how can I say, the conservatism. I have the common idea, but we'll talk about it.
right. And last year we
Mhm.
talked about, the Japanese election after Ishida resigned, So, and the Ishiba party is not enough to win and not majority at the parliament. I don't know how it is still survivor or how it's running at the moment by Ishiba. He has no majority, right?
Hmm. It's up to, how can I say? Anyway, it's pretty difficult in Japan to hold the long term, the managementship at the cabinet as of prime minister. So in that sense, Abe-san was kind of a big exceptions.
Right.
So, objectively speaking, the Ishiba-san, I think he's gonna find some difficulty to hold a long-term the managementship at the cabinet. This is the not my, I'd say, personal the perspective, but objectively, maybe right to say in that directions.
Right.
Hmm.
So he has no majority. So his coalition, I think, his party, LDP and Gometo, has less than, the majority seats. So how they are cooperating right now with the opposition party?
You mean with the Kometo?
Right. Kometo and LDP.
LDP and Kometo has been making collaboration for pretty long time, I guess, and I'm not quite sure, how long, how many years officially they've been cooperating with, but pretty long time, they've been in an official way collaborating in a diet. And this is the same applied to the Shiba-san's case. So I don't know whether it's very appropriate for the LDP to do that, to be honest. Because, Kometo is based on religious, the organization, basically. So, anyway, the political dimensions, as said before, Ishiba-san, has a ground of the both the collaborative parties, LDP and Kometo.
So Kometo and LDP, they got only 208 or 218, but it's required 233, right? So what they collaborate with, how collaboration with opposition,
You mean it's not enough for them
right? Not
to get
majority,
the majority, you mean?
right?
But with other parties, maybe it's quite difficult for them to do the collaboration, I guess. How to say it's a general perspective. For instance, 立憲民主党 or the other party, for instance, the Communist Party, it's very difficult to do with for the LDP. And I think it's possible for LDP to do with the uh, what was that? 国民維新.
DPP,
維新. It's called 維新. In the English term, I don't know precisely.
maybe DPP, Democratic Party.
There is a little bit conservative, but at the same time, the revolutionary way of thinking the party there is, and it's located in Osaka actually. In Japanese term, it's called Ishin. With Ishin, LDP possible to do the collaboration, but I have never heard of they're trying to make a collaboration in a diet. So, kind of a general the perspective. LDP not so much many the options to do in a diet to hold the majority in a diet. Because立憲民主党has a kind of a from right to left, pretty, quite, vast range of the ideology they have, and originated from the parallel lefty party, based on the labor, the union. So it's quite difficult to do with the 立憲民主党 for the LDP. And communists, of course, as you're aware of. So,
So in Japanese constitution, in
mhm,
this kind of situation, nobody has majority and no coalition party has majority. What constitution allow them? The biggest number can be a government because LDP is still biggest number, right? Compared to
right.
other parties. But LDP and commit to coalition still not majority at the
Mm.
parliament. So how the constitution allow them?
The constitution, I think, does not require any party to be majority winning, I think. So constitutionally, that is okay for any party, including LDP, to be not sufficient to be the very majority party as of the number.
You mean 233 seat, right? Majority.
Yeah, I think if they can, be allowed to elect the prime minister, I think that's okay. And my understanding is that the constitution doesn't require any party to be, as of the number, the very large party in a diet. So, still, constitutionally, that is okay situation. That is my understanding, Johnson.
So
Mm,
LDP has the biggest number, so they can form a government, even though they
mm,
have not get 233 seats at the parliament, but still they
mhm.
are big. The big ones can form the government, right?
Yeah, right. So they are always, unstable to do anything.
Right.
You have to do at any issue, try to make let's say the kind of creating up the collaborative the situation. So that's the issue. Ne?
Definitely, it will be problem in parliament when they make any,
Mm,
any bills that they don't have majority, they cannot pass the bill. I don't know in Japanese politics, usually LDP is a conservative party and pro-American, pro-alliance. You can say like that.
yeah, LDP, I don't know whether it's very appropriate to say that it's a very conservative party because for the very long tradition of LDP, it has pretty much, the very vast range of ideology people. Not so left, what is called, but from the a little left middle to the right, they are including. And as you can see, Abe-san is very much famous. He was for his political ideology, a little the conservative. But I don't think not all of them uh, has that kind of conservative view, especially in the field of constitution and the kind of political the rightness. But, generally speaking, compared with 立憲民主党 or まあ、共産党, they can be said that a little conservative. And if we look at the relationship with the United States, some of them, can be said that they are against the United States, especially from the point of view of international politics, including the intelligence. Or Japan doesn't have a military, but from the US side, military affairs. But generally speaking, most of the LDP's people are, very much, familiar with the continuing to have a relationship with the Japan-US, reliance. That is very, complex matter. Even, they are very much, supportive to Japan-US alliance. Now, some of them are against to the reformation of the constitution. Some of them love to reform the constitution from the point of view, especially a very conservative view. A little, Abe-san was that kind of a directions. So that directions, are just a little aside from just Japan-US relationship. The kind of the way to look at the constitutionalism, including the reformation of constitution. That's a very complex matter.
Okay. So at least most conservative party in Japan, they are pro America, pro relationship between Japan and America. We can say like that, right?
For the future creation, the most of the Japanese people thinking that Japan-US alliance, the very needed. And the factual, the situation requiring the Japan to do with the US. And the kind of the even nuclear matter, some Japanese, allowance to the kind of umbrella of a US, the military, the issue all over the Asian Pacific, right? So, but, this is pretty, separative, the issue when the Japanese people look at the atomic bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And on August, we always look back the bombing in Hiroshima and Nagasaki's atomic the bombing as of the human tragedy. And so some of Japanese people, including the lefty people, try to combine those matter, unified, and try to kick out the U.S. military, from Japan. Albeit this, being very the minority, But still, there is kind of people, but including LDP majority, and most of the Japanese people, how to say, try to divide those things. Japan-US alliance, including the constitutional, the Article 9, and the bombing, atomic bomb in Hiroshima, Nagasaki, pretty separative. So I don't think, this is very the perfect, the perception to look at the history and the kind of contextual, the creation of constitutional, the situation in Japan. But factually, including the government, Japan has been trying to perceive those two things in this kind of matter.
It's still it should go together with Japan and American alliance, it's no way you cannot ignore, right? Still, Japan American alliance is important, and Japan still need America, and American also still need in
Hmm.
in this political climate, right?
Yeah. Uh, Japan-US alliance is a kind of mutual, the independently, the dependence each other. So it's pretty difficult to, how to say, the set apart for each country, to be not dealing with the relationship, Japan and US. So if the Hiroshima and Nagasaki issues, realize to us, it's a little, of course, confusing. And some of the philosophers, even in US, still think that Hiroshima and Nagasaki was unjust. But anyway, you know, this kind of matter still that remains in Japan. But most of the Japanese people, and including the ruling party in Japan, think that Japan and the US, the reliance is very, very important.
Right, right. I
Mm.
mean, you are married, Japan and US is marriage couple already. So in spite, you have already, deadly fighting at the World War, but you are married. So I think it will be unlikely to divorce anytime. And
Hmm.
Japan cannot marry another person yet, right? Maybe I don't think Japan may willing to marry with China or Russia, or I don't think, well, Japanese people will feel like that. They want to be willing to engage
John-san, that's a
relationship with,
hard question, again, but hard to say. Principally, the China still has a kind of a principle of communism. So
right,
meaning that, constitutionally, they do not allow the property.
right,
And the law doesn't, as of a political philosophy, doesn't allow as a principle the property itself. So the basically, Chinese government, has everything as of the public. And Russia, has turned into the liberal democratic party, allowing the people the property. But with China, for the mainstream of politics in Japan, it's pretty difficult to shift from US to China. Of course, I'm very much aware that those kind of stream has existed, especially around 2000, the years. And I think, Hatoyama-san, who used to be the prime minister,
I see.
he was the president of Democratic Party. He got the power once. And I'm aware that, Hatoyama-san had a kind of a tendency to create the Eastern Asia or something. And he has built up maybe community to do that, meaning that, he wanted to stress the importance of China, Korea, Japan, the kind of the much more the collaborative, the eastern part of Asia collaborations, rather than depending on the
West.
US from Japan side. So there had been that kind of a stream, especially that was a time, China was a very emerging in a very rapid way economically. And people, I would say, tend to focus on the importance of Chinese, the economics, and rather a little bit shifting into the political area, even to the level of creating up the eastern part of the Asia, centrated the world order or something. But that's a little, trying to recreate the world order a little apart from US, but still, I'm sorry to say again, but Japanese mainstream politics, has been centrating in, Japan and US alliance matter. And, this is not just of, that's the international politics, power balance, but also, this is the right strategy from the point of view of ideology and political philosophy, because from the point of view of liberty, as of the principle, a little difficult to do with the China, because
Uh,
constitutionalism, different at all at the very ground principle level, as you are aware of what, Johnson.
right. So
Mm.
it's totally different ideology, you know.
Yeah, that's, Chinese, the ideologies are very off the modern philosophical way of thinking, originated from especially the Marxism in the modern era. And the liberal democracy, the property-oriented the constitutionalism, and the communism are both the kind of two sides of parts of the modern philosophy. But philosophical principle is very different. So a little difficult to do with, the both sides. This is the kind of the philosophical level of the thinking.
Right. So, you know,
Mm.
Chinese ideology is not for individual businessmen and private sector business, you know. It's
Mhm.
only public sector business is good in China. In spite, it has very large number of growing economy, but most other country will be risky to do a private sector business, you know, unless
Mm.
have a state-to-state business, something like this. And in even though Chinese is growing economy, do you think uh, China can keep growing or can maintain economic growth without the West participation or support, or without collaboration with America, where China can grow? Because the monetary or a lot of world trade or economic system is still more or less dominated by the West and, you know, US, European, you know.
That's, exactly as you the wisely aware of that, China trying to do, for the very long term, the very well planned strategy. I don't know how to pronounce in the English term precise way. まあ、一帯一路 the kind of international constructions, allowance of the huge money into the southeastern part of Asia, and even to the South Asia and Russia. They
Low,
have been, hmm,
low money, right? They borrow money, low money.
hmm, they have been trying to build up. And, obviously they are, how to say, seeking for the next generation, the global number one country, after the United States. That's very obvious. And the maybe the main issue is to maybe from the point of view of investment, they can really whether make it realized to seek for the status of global number one. And I don't know, this is the kind of human race, the historical the issue to talk about whether China can be continuously winning with the battle of what is called the West and the international, the banking and the capital investment, the stream, they can win against. But they've been struggling to face to that, the issue for a long time. And a little 3 or 4 years ago, some of the critique, had been, talking about the kind of the winning, the possibility of China. But the factory these days, China has been a little declining. And the reason is that the kind of population issue in China, because kind of winning of the Chinese, the very improvement till a little 3 or 4 years ago was because of population, the richness, inside of China. But a little declining of a number of a population shows that China, whether can continue to have herself, to continue the kind of a growth. And the number of growth from the point of view of international, the investigation into the Chinese, the economics doesn't show that China will continue to be the global number one. So to this extent, these topics, maybe that's a maximum that I can make a reply to you, Johnson.
Probably, right. That will be the highest growth for China, right? And maybe not more than this one, and probably similar to Japan, right? Japan is very good economic growth. It was in 1990, something like that.
Yeah,
Go
yeah.
straight, go straight up, compared to any Asian country. Japan is highest growing, growing, growing. Only after 2000 or later, slowly declining. Maybe China case maybe now is the highest peak, and probably they will also follow Japan, I guess, slowly
Yeah,
down.
that's some of the critiques talking about, and China seemed to be much more, how to say, tragic than the Japan 1990s. So, we can't, foresee the future 100%, but, there's a possibility for China to be the same or a little worse than Japanese, 1980s and 1990s. So, but we never know, because inside of China, there is a room that we cannot see 100%, to be honest.
Right. And the other Chinese problem, as you mentioned, the property rights, because all are public Chinese government ownership, there's no private sector ownership. That's big issue. That is dictatorship style is dangerous. Once collapse, many things can easily collapse,
Hmm.
Democracy is still check and balance, Even Japan case, you don't base on one person, You change
Hmm.
any prime minister almost every year. Check and balance is more uh, reliable or more granted for the people, but the dictatorship style is more risky, I guess.
I do not intend to support the Chinese government, but theoretically, the Communist Party's kind of a principle is that they never the mistakes in a theory. So that is very right for them to hold the power very unified because theoretically they cannot make mistake. So theoretically there is no how to say the issue for them to do the check and balance as of the principle. So I say again, but I do not intend to support the Chinese government, but theoretically that's very correct and right for them to, let's say, the allocate or centralize the power at the very one point and to do the everything because theoretically the Communist Party, has never the possibility to do wrong. And
Right.
that is why one party, one unity, they will do the very best, the rightness. So theoretically, that's a very right thing for them to do, even not doing the check and balance.
Right. And recently, Ishiba, Prime Minister Ishiba also went to Malaysia and Indonesia. I don't know you have any message and what will be done by Ishiba with the relationship with ASEAN country.
I don't know well about precisely what he talked about, but anyway, ASEAN, obviously very, very important area for Japan. That is no doubt the very rightness. And from the point of view of especially the economical dimensions, with China, Japan has been, you know, relying on each other. But these days, especially Indonesia, has been, let's say, arising as a very emerging country in the field of the economics. And as of the population, Indonesia is very the obvious to be the important the sector even in all of the Asia. So ASEAN, obviously very important. So that's why, Ishiba-san, physically visited, those area. And that is showing that the kind of importance of those area. Even maybe a little bit, thinking about the, including the semiconductors, the matters, including the Taiwan issue, ASEAN are very important to visit for the Prime Minister Japan.
Right. So last time
Mm.
I talked with one of American expertise and others scholar. Many scholars believe uh, this Chinese over manufacturing, over producing productions. That's because uh, that can be played by ASEAN because many believe if the manufacturing ship to ASEAN, a lot of companies ship to ASEAN and produce much less expensive than China, and they can produce same products and same thing, and even much logistically easier for international community. So if that is shipped, China will not continue grow economy, and economic growth will be more focused in ASEAN. That can also check and balance by international community, business, and international economy. How do you think that? There are
Um,
over production in China, over manufacturing. So
mhm.
many company international focus to ASEAN and ship many company to ASEAN. that can be prevent Chinese overproduction and overgrowth.
Yes, yes. Maybe 4 or 5 years. Many of the manufacturing, the equipment has been shifted from China to, say, Taiwan into ASEAN. So that is, the very precisely what you have talked about,
Right,
Johnson. And ASEAN maybe will be the next the area, the manufacturing, the facility will be, focused upon. So, India seems to be, very emerging in that area too. But, anyway, though this, 4 or 5 years, the manufacturing situation in China has been shifted to the the next dimensions. Anyway, so this is my general the perceptions. ASEAN and China, the manufacturing, the shift as of a situation.
right. As you said, probably during Obama administration, Obama has
Uh-huh.
policy for pivot Asia, and uh, they want to engage stronger with ASEAN and less than lesser relationship with China. But the policy was good. But the problem is they failed policy. It's not successful. They did not make a good strategy to be a successful policy before Asia because many companies still remain in China and not much grow up in ASEAN. So why it was not successful that pivot Asia and why many companies remain in China and not shifting to ASEAN. But you said maybe very little company they move to Taiwan and ASEAN. It's still very few company, right?
Yeah, Johnson, thank you for asking. I think, what I heard and my understanding of shifting the manufacturing from China to the other part of the world, to Taiwan, into some other part of ASEAN, is that kind of a cost issue because the the range of the laboring fee in China, has been raising pretty high, and I think this is the one of the measuring the reason, the manufacturing the issue has been shifting from China to other part of the world. This is one of the point that I can raise up very obviously. And the other part, maybe a little bit, property issue has been influencing to the kind of the owners of the foreign the companies. But I don't think this is the main point. In the my understanding is that the kind of the comparatively raising high the 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 labor the the cost has been pretty high up in mainland in China.
That's the reason. So why not many company move? It's still not moving, not shifting to ASEAN. Still, there are many remain in China.
Uh,
Why not quickly they move to ASEAN? What is problem in ASEAN? How do you see that?
I mean, not all of manufacturing,
Right,
shifted to ASEAN.
right. So there are any problem do you see in ASEAN?
I don't know. Maybe the the quality of internal discipline of the working people or some other the investment issue. I think of course I know the investment can be done under the very the survey precisely. So there should be some the reason. If there is something that Johnson has kindly raised up. But anyway, there has been a little change for 5 years. The shift in the Chinese the manufacturing, the very centralized and concentrate issue to the other part of the world.
Right. So, uh, how do you see what will able to make ship more company from China to ASEAN? What is necessary and how can be shipped to ASEAN?
Yeah. Anyway, this kind of the labor issue will shift from one country to another part of the world. And if capitalism, will remain. So the rest is just, time and in a good meaning, a little, containing might be a bad meaning. But anyway, the training, the personnel in the country. So, but, basically, this kind of a transformation of the manufacturing issue will be done from the point of view of the laboring cost, if I may mention from the point of view of management. So I think this is a very the main the focus point we can look at the world. If some manufacturing the shifting issue will arise.
Right. Because we are talking shifting many companies from China to ASEAN is part of pivot Asia policy, to
Mhm.
to balance international economy, especially geopolitical issue as well, political issue, security issue as well, because of
Yeah, security issue is
China.
also important. Yes. If we look at, say, the semiconductor, of course, you are very much, the specialist in that field, you may be. But those, very the security issue, the including at the very top, the intelligence matter, well, that's a very the political the issue sometimes. So
Right,
shifting to Taiwan, it's very related to the very global level of international politics issue, included.
right,
That's a little, different the dimensions of the phenomena, right?
right. So the thing in ASEAN, also require, as you said, maybe more better infrastructure and
Mhm.
better skilled labor, maybe because China has a lot of engineering, but compared to other countries, they have many engineers. And also political stability, like Burma, Myanmar, civil war, that was not good for business, nobody can do business and do any international business. And other ASEAN countries also still need improving some skill. Then if we see all these various factor, probably that is delaying. How do you see? Japan also supporting Pivot Asia policy, right?
Yeah, that is very one of the measuring the Japanese, the following the relationship, the strategy. Uh, as you mentioned, that point, Japan has a kind of co collaboration with the United States, especially around 2000, as China obviously came to be the very emerging, potentially the global number one. So pretty much, the US had been watching the Chinese, the movement, and Japan had been the same. So even in the field of the legal area, surround the area of China, Japan has been supportive to the development of, including the former Soviet, Union, the area, to build up the liberal democratic, the free economic countries. That started maybe 1991, but anyway, 2000 era, and till now, Japan has been supported to foster the emerging countries, to be developed in a good way. So, that's the basic, the foreign policy for Japan.
Right, right. So probably Ishiba, Prime Minister Ishiba went to Malaysia, Indonesia, also part of that policy, They want
Might be.
to promote how to cooperation with ASEANs and how Japan can cooperate with ASEAN. Otherwise, uh, I mean, check and balance is required. Sometimes Chinese is overwhelmingly many ASEAN countries. Some of them, they are providing a lot of cheap loan and easy loan. So those things, there are many countries easily they can get Chinese loan money, that's the
Hmm.
thing. And as you said, Japan also interest, I don't know, current prime minister.
Well, basically, same as Japan, South Korea has kind of a constitutional principle, the liberal, democratic, the order, without mentioning. And, obviously the, the very core, one of the most important, the, the part of economics and geographically very important for Japan and has been for a long time, obviously, the very good relationship with Japan. So, and I don't know, this is the very must, mentioning issue, but these days, the Korean pop culture is very much, influencing even to Japanese people. And a little that aspect, the situation has been, changed to the better direction. If we look at the Korean influence to Japan. So not just, economy, the international, the political issue, even in the field of the daily life, the cultural, the influence, the South Korea's, the issues, how to say, brought to, Japanese, daily life, the people's awareness, you know, influence has been increasing more and more. This is including not just the high level of authoritative, the political issue, the cultural dimensions, I don't know whether or how Prime Minister Ishiba will respond to the president of South Korea, to be honest. But anyway, even thinking about Asian Pacific, the prosperity, US-Japan alliance, including, of course, South Korea. South Korea obviously the very important the partner for Japan. So, Prime Minister Ishiba will be surely making approach to South Korea, the very top level of politics, in a very important the a polite way to foster both of the countries, the future creations. That is very sure. Ship with North Korea, Japanese people, I don't know how people are looking at divided Korea, but anyway, South Korea is a very important country. But anyway, for Japan, as of a very liberal democratic, the same ideology, even in the field of economics, important, the alliance country. So, but,まNorth Korea, ideology different, and they have a little different style of managing system. So, general perception is that many of the Japanese people are looking at a little suspicious way at the North Korea. But the South Korea, we are friend, and as I told you, this is very, culture issue are flooding into Japan from South Korea. And that's a very, surprising the change that has occurred maybe since 2000 year or something. So, sociologically, even in the field of culture issue, we are feeling that, much more and more closer, the people's, the kind of uh, psychological, the sympathy with the South Korea. That is actually, the happening, in Japan.
Right.
I feel, South Korea has been pretty trying to have a position closer to United States. And the kind of the people's, the attitude to do, say, for instance, to making success is South Korea has been, influenced by the American way. That's a kind of, the basic, the perception we find look at the South Korea's way to do the things. But uh you know but still, the Korea, South Korea has come to be very confident in their own way. And now maybe I don't know, this is very, very, how to say, precisely the right, if I mention, from the point of view of the culture, but one of the reasons that Japanese people are fascinated by the pop culture of South Korea, maybe having achieved the economical the success pretty much, and has been more the psychologically independent from the influence of the US, especially these days. So that is maybe, the identical, pro-China, Korea. So, that is a very, the general phenomena. If the country has come to be the confident in their successes, I think that is, samely applied to South Korea, especially these 15 years.
Uh, South Korea is a democracy country, and Japan also democracy country. It should be uh, it should be much closer, but as you said, they also many things prefer with China. I don't know, ideology maybe should not be,
Maybe, ideologically, Japan needs to be, holding the Japan-US alliance, and the South Korea, of course, included. In the case of South Korea, it's the military issue and the intelligence matter. So, it's pretty difficult to do with very seriously with China. So, meaning that, the kind of eastern part of Asia, the consortium, say China, South Korea, Japan, the collaborative. At the end, it's going to be the military issue, the intelligent issue, should be, talked about. I think that's a very hard things to make it done. So, a little, conservative way. I don't know whether this is a very appropriate to use in this context, the conservative, but the international politics, the strategical, the way of thinking to keep the Asian Pacific, the stability, maybe at the end, from the point of view of concept of liberal, democratic, the ideology, the friends, the South Korea, Japan, and the US, maybe working together. So
You
it's
know,
not it's not completely the right, but for the time being, that's the best the way to do that.
that's understandable.
Historically, we need to face that the facts. So the looking at the facts and the interpretation and the mediation is for both of us to make the the richer and the prosperous future. So we'll do the things together, possibly in a very harmonious way. That's the maximum, the most, the honest way. The different parties are looking at the facts in a different way. And of course, I can't say at all, they are talking too much or something. So I can't do that. But anyway, facing to in a very serious attitude, looking at what they and what they are talking about the damages. And but at the same time, sorry to mention again this kind of a way, but to create the better future, the brighter future, there's no other way for both of us to do collaborative way in a harmonious ways, hands in hand. And for the Japan, of course, we need to be very seriously, in an honest way, look at the very factual the phenomena, and yeah,
You
we'll
mean
do the
the
good thing together.
factual issue mean evidence, right? They should show any legal case. There should be evidence and all these factual things and honestly